you all to kind of ask a lot of questions, so please feel free. If we aren't able to get through, please enter them in the chat. If we aren't able to answer them at the time, we will certainly get back to you by the end of the session at some point or during one of the breaks. And also, please try to keep it muted. Obviously, there are obviously the limitations with virtual is, we want to keep it smooth and running. So please keep your microphone muted unless you have a question you wish to ask or something or the other. A bit of background of Sushant. Has been in auditing for many years, has had years of experience in 17 plus years in management system implementation, over 14 years as a third-party auditor, has been conducting many third-party audits against all of the various standards, including 27001, has a lot of cybersecurity, cloud security experience, has been recommended and referred, by many different CBs for in the 27000 space, has lots of experience. Also has been involved in developing in-house software as well, so has a good understanding of some of the intricacies within and some of the risks around it. So also qualifications, has been involved in kind of finance, also cybersecurity, got a diploma, got the Six Sigma black belt, so many different kinds of experiences he's had, and obviously he has certification, training, and assessment, and that's why we've engaged him. Obviously, he's a very experienced trainer and has been in the training game for many years. So we're looking forward to what he can bring today, and I'll now pretty much hand it over to him. Thank you, Sushant.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Tushar. And I have not paid Tushar for all the good words he has said for me. Okay, so see, basically, means just to add to that, I would like to mention that if suppose someone wants to have this certificate, which is recognized by Exemplar Global, you can contact Tushar, and we have made some arrangement, and we'll let you know the details of that later on if you want the certificate for this transition. But that is not mandatory, that is optional. So as you decide later on, you can contact Tushar and let him know. Okay, so the learning objective, means as you know, means you all are experienced in your field, and you have done the auditing also, so you know the basics of auditing. We will just concentrate on the different changes that has happened to this 27022 version of this standard, and understand the changes with reference to all these controls which are there. The structure of the control, and what are the requirements which has been added, and what is expected to be seen from the new standard perspective. And also it will help to do a gap assessment if you are involved in any consultancy or internal auditing and all this with the companies, because we all play a different versatile role, and this training will also help you to understand and do this gap assessment and help the organization in the implementation also. So from both the aspect, you can just get some value addition from this training. As you know, just a bit of history and the evolution of this standard, and you know it, so I don't have to explain too much in detail about this for some of you, but just all the standards started with the British standard, and BS 7799 Part 2 was the standard based on which the ISO standard was developed in 2005. So that was the first version in which there were 133 controls in 8 control domains. Then in 2013, it was reduced to 114 controls in 14 control domains. And the latest one, which was published in October 2022, last year, just a couple of months back, in this, the controls have been reduced to 93 in 4 control domains. So in this, this is the current in the current standard, we have 93 different controls, and all are categorized under four control domains. So summary of changes, if we just go through 2013 versus 2022 version. And this latest version was published in October, on 25th October 2022. And the name which was there in 2013, which was Information Technology Security Technique, Information Security Management System Requirement, that has been changed to now Information Security, Cyber Security, and Privacy Protection Information Security Management System Requirement. So this is a major change that they have added the term cyber security and privacy protection because of the importance of cyber security and privacy in the whole information security aspect. Now, if you see the first page of the standard appears like this. So 2013 version was this, and now the current version is like in which cyber security and privacy protection has been added. This 27,002 2022, which is the guideline standard and which is the most important standard in the family of 27,000 standard. This was published a bit earlier than this 27,001, and it was published on 15th February 2022. Again, there has been a name change of this standard, which was earlier Security Technique Code of Practice of Information Security Control. Now it has become Information Security, Cyber Security, and Privacy Protection Information Security Control. So this is the name change for this 27,002 standard. And as you know, this is not the requirement standard. This is the guidance standard, which has the guidelines or the guidance provided in it, and it can be taken for developing the maturity of the Information Security Management System standard. So it is, as you know, that any guideline standard is not used for certification. It is just a guideline, and in this, all the reference set of controls which are there just for reference. It is not sort of a requirement. So 27,001 standard, if you see the content page of it, and now there has been a bit of a change in the sub-clauses. So some sub-clauses have been made, and things have been made more clear and more specific. So and also to align with the harmonized structure. So basically, the harmonized structure, which is there for all the ISO standard. This standard was one of the first to adopt that. If you remember, at that time, even 9001 in 2013 was not like the way all the standards have now been aligned. But in cosmetic changes and slight this changes in the. So if you see the background of this 27,001, for some countries it was adopted for 2014 or 15 or 17 version, also some, particularly some European countries. It is not very well known in the entire world because hardly a few countries adopted those version, but 2013 version was more prevalent all over the world. And in Australia, I have not seen any company going for this. So it was mainly confined to European countries. And now in the current version of the standard in 2022, this has been aligned with the harmonized structure. So generally, the changes to the mandatory clauses are relatively minor. There are several structural changes, including the addition, modification of some of the sub-clauses. So as I mentioned, that sub-clauses have been modified. The first clause, 4.2c, if you see, in this, there has been a very clear this requirement laid down that organization to determine which of the requirements of interested party will be addressed through the information security management system. So a very specific requirement is that about the interested party. So this has been made as a change in this new standard. So which of these requirements will be addressed through the information security management system? In clause number 6, if you see, 6.1d has been made again, with more clarity, it has been put in this new standard. So earlier, D was just produce a statement of applicability that contains the necessary control and justification for inclusion, whether they are implemented or not, and justification for exclusion of control. But now in this new standard, produce the statement of applicability that contains the necessary controls, justification for their inclusion, whether the necessary control are implemented or not. So status of implementation may be partially implemented, fully implemented, not implemented, whatever. And if not, then have you done the risk assessment, risk identification, evaluation, and treatment for those controls or not, something like that, which is a very prevalent process, especially when it comes to ISM control, which probably some of you are familiar with. So justification for exclusion of this control, again, is something which has specified just like the last step. 6.2 has been modified. So one additional, this has been added in this, that the objective will be monitored. It was not very specifically mentioned in the earlier standard. So now it is very clear that objective need to be monitored, because as an auditor, I don't know, do you have some experience in the past that you saw the objective has been established but not monitored? Anyone?
It's always the most of the time it's the case. It's not tracked appropriately, or some of the organization not even, whether they just set the exa objectives and at the time of the management review, they just discuss about it, but it's not tracked throughout the year.
Actually, you have just mentioned spot on what is with most of the organization. Yeah, so you have experienced the same, which I'm sure all the auditors who audit regularly and different organization, we come across this, that it is established, and just in the name of monitoring, it is just put as one of the agenda item in the management review, and that's what is shown as the evidence. So that is that was the thing which always I used to raise as an opportunity for improvement, because this is something which is not expected for organization to do. That when you set up the objective, you have to have a sort of for monitoring those objectives. Otherwise, there is no meaning of that. And you have to constantly keep updating as a dynamic document, and you have to constantly correlate with the result of the risk assessment. Anything anyone wants to add here?
Yeah, if I may say, like most of the times, if it is established with objectives and targets, then the monitoring process kicks in automatically. Because when you set a target, then you have to actually monitor, and then you have to have what are the mechanisms you use to monitor, or the tool that is being used to monitor the targets that has been established for that specific objective. So if it is just objectives, then probably the monitoring goes out of the window. But if it is established as objectives and targets, then the monitoring will take place.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. And see, the word target is something which is not specified here in some of the standard they put it. But the main thing is that if you have developed some objectives, some KPI, you can call it KPI target or whatever is there, or you can measurable objective or smart objective or aims of the organization or whatever name you give. The main thing is that you have to have some mechanism of monitoring those objective at the strategic level, tactical level, the operational level, so and different functions and level. And at the same time, I have seen in most of the cases, I don't know how many of you have experienced that even this is not a new requirement. This was from the earlier this only, that take into account the information security requirement and result from the risk assessment. Do you find it common that organization utilize the result of risk assessment in updating their objective?
Yeah, never. I haven't seen that. The most I would say more than a 50% organization just carry forward from last year to another year.
I second that. I second that. Of course, whatever audits that I have done, I've seen, and whatever organization we've seen, the risks are treated separately, and more updation of the objectives is done in silos. And when we say, okay, have you referred to it? Have you seen that? What are the problems coming up? So it's evidently not being discussed.
Even if it's not achieved, they don't do the investigation why it's not achieved or anything. Just simply they just carry forward from year to another.
Absolutely, and many cases are like that. Absolutely, and it is just everything is done as if just to satisfy the ISO requirement that you have to have the objective and put it in management review. You put as agenda item and that's it. And I have seen even consultant struggling with the organization to have this updated, because when I raised the OFI, say 2 years back in one organization and went to audit again after 2 years, I saw that exactly same objective. Everything was exactly same, and that was put in the management review. I told the consultant that this time during the whole 2 years, did you not get chance to convince them for this that they should have a tracking mechanism? And this was before 2022. I'm talking about the prior to 2022, and they told that no, it is impossible to convince the ISMS, the ISO team or ISMS team to make any change in this, and have to keep it like that. So then I told that there is no option. Then I'll raise it as minor and or major, whatever you everyone agrees, and then probably something would be done. But this is the requirement of standard that you utilize the outcome of risk assessment. So now it is very clear now that it has to be monitored. So now I think this is the tool based on which we can convince the organization that, okay, set your objective and have a monitoring mechanism to monitor the objective.
And I think probably the review won't happen if nothing changes in the organization much. And should an incident happen, then probably that will kick in, and then they will have a visit to the risk assessments. But when things are just going quite easy and nothing is happening and nothing is dynamic, then that's where it becomes dormant.
And that's what, as auditor or consultant, we have to convince the organizational top management that compliance is the killer. Because if we don't have any incident or anything based on that, if we consider that we can be happy with that and stop monitoring or tracking the thing, probably it can result in something like Optus or Medibank one day, and your reputational risk will be at stake, and then unnecessarily you will have to take decision like that. So why to wait for that to happen? Better to have the proactive approach. That's what it's the whole idea.
Yeah, that's what normally I tell the clients as well.
Yeah, of course. We have to just do our part. We can't completely change what organization want to do, but yes, at least keep them on the highlight it and keep ask them to keep these things under radar and take it seriously. So yes, very good. Thanks everyone for contributing your this. And now next one. Okay, so 6.3 clause has been added for planning of changes, which was not there as a separate clause in the earlier standard. Now it has been made as a separate clause for planning of changes. So this is something which is a new addition. Then 7.4, which is for communication. Again, a bit of change in this how to communicate. So now again for this again it's such a good batch. I'm finding it very interesting to interact with all of you in this. Normally, what is your experience for communication clause of the standard? Can you share, some of you? Please feel free. Anyone wants to say anything?
I think most of the communication normally happens, they normally when they have their fortnightly meetings or monthly meetings, basically then they go through if there is any issues and basically whoever the security team, they call it the ISM team.
That's right.
And basically they do communicate. I mean, they go through pretty much there's an agenda. Communication is pretty much according to the agenda and on issues.
That's right. How many of you have come across the organization which has developed a formal communication plan or communication metrics? Have you come across?
Oh yeah, I have come across quite a few organizations, specifically with any organization go for the information security management system for the government scheme, DAISY scheme.
That's right.
They always have a communication plan in place.
Sure. In that, it has been made a sort of a very specific requirement, and that's why DAISY scheme it becomes a very sometimes easy also to audit because everything is sort of done in a formalized manner, right?
That is correct. In fact, the communication plan is something that we look forward to when we implement. We try to ask the client to create a communication plan, and when we audit, we of course look forward to such kind of a plan there. And
Sure.
Evidences against execution of such plan is also very important aspect to look into. That if there's a communication which has to go, it could be a kind of executive summary. Could be one communication. There could be a communication for the breaches. It could be communication for certain security incidents. So there could be multiple ways or multiple areas of communication which may be going to different audience. So we look forward to how exactly is happening. So this is where we come to.
Sure. Right. So for all the internal, external communication, I have seen some organization developing, as you might have seen, and you have seen that some of them develop very formal communication metrics or plan, and for the internal, external communication, then they develop the communication channel with different levels of management and different teams in the teams channel. Now it is very prevalent in most of the organization. Then Slack channel separately for this. And then the task assignment through your, means Jira, this, so that all the, particularly the developers and testers and all the different stakeholders involved in software development, particularly can communicate. Then they maintain the Kanban board for those kind of, for again having regular communication. There is stand-up meeting, which is their regular stand-up meeting, and like that. So some companies develop a sort of communication plan also showing all the different this. So very few, but yes, some companies definitely go for it in a formal manner. Now 8.1, in which again the things were just mentioned as the paragraph. In this, now it has been made more clear that establish the criteria for the process and implementing control of the process in accordance with the criteria. So that is made more specific in this new standard. Clause number 8. So again, the same thing which I told is there, and particularly the implement action determined by clause 6. So whatever you do in the planning aspect, how you relate it here, how you while implementing that has to be there. So that linkage of the planning and the operational control has to be there based on the established criteria and how that is implemented, basically. So next one is about the outsourced processes. Earlier in the 2013 version of the standard, the organizations shall ensure that outsourced processes are determined and controlled. So this was the requirement in 2013 version. 2022, they have gone a bit wider and included all the externally provided processes. So not only the outsourced process. Outsourced process typically meant that some managed service or those processes which are given to the managed service provider, or something which is outsourced as the company has not got the resources to do it, something like suppose data center or things like that. So that was the concept in the outsource process. But now in externally provided processes cover all the external service provider, be it training provider, be it cleaner, be it any other provider, whether provider for supply of hardware or software. Every entity is now covered under this externally provided processes. So next one is about the monitoring.
Wasn't it
Yeah.
covered under the supplier relationship into the previous standard?
Yeah, that was definitely a control later on. That control still is there because there has not been any change in the control now. All the controls of the earlier standard has been taken and nothing has been made obsolete. But in this high level structure, the focus is that many organizations used to, and particularly those who were mainly focusing on the IT controls and all, they used to just skip the clauses. 4 to 10 clauses was not the thing which was considered or criteria that was considered during the auditing. So here they have made it more clear even in the high level structure clauses that controls remain same. So it was definitely covered there. But when all these, suppose whatever is there in this high level structure, that has also got importance in the same sense that when you implement your information security management system, all your steps of planning, doing, checking, acting should be covered through these high-level structure clauses. And that's why they have highlighted it in the high-level structure clause. The annexer control remains same. So definitely it was covered through the annexer control earlier, and which will continue. So 9 is again a bit of change in this 2013 version stated that the organization shall retain appropriate documentation. Here they have added that the organization shall evaluate the information security performance and the effectiveness of the information security management system. So that is something which has been measurement, analysis, and evaluation clause. 9.3, again, a bit of change is there, and sub clauses have been made more clear here. In 9.2, you see, earlier 2013 version, it was just one clause, and then all these requirements were there. In this now 9.2.1, 2.2 has been segregated, and things have been just described more with more clarity, basically. Similarly, for 9.3, now this has got 3 different subclauses: 9.3.1, 3.2, and 3.3, and this has been described again with a bit of more clarity. 10.1 and 10.2 has been exchanged. So just to align with the high-level structure, harmonized structure, or high-level structure clauses, this has been just swapped. So 10.1 was non-conformity and 10.2 was continual improvement. It has been swapped. So 10.1 is now continual improvement and 10.2 is the non-conformity. And the focus, as you know, the whole information security management system is to be applied or to be implemented with the aim of continual improvement. I'm sure this sentence you repeat over and over again with every client whom you meet, right? It's all about continual improvement. So as a consultant or as an auditor, our responsibility is to help them in the journey of continual improvement. And that's why continual improvement is the key word. So that is all about the high level structure which are there. Any question, any clarification out of these? Or you want to add something? Please feel free. You all are very learned batch of participants. Please.
Just a small comment here. One change which is there for planning of changes, which has been added into the clause 6 somewhere. which we had earlier struggled while doing the audit because it was there in operations. That is clause 8, it was there, but it was not there in the planning phase. That clause
Yeah.
6 was not there. So
That's right.
we had to, it was a went to doing consulting with the clients to explain that yes, planning of change is equally important than even while during operations is what you are implementing what is being planned.
That's
So
right.
that is where this is a very good change which has come up 6.3.
Sure, sure. No, absolutely, because change management is something which is so
Absolutely.
important, and it was not very specifically mentioned somewhere in the paragraph. It was lost in clause number 8,
Yeah,
and then it was in
clause 8
12.
it was there, but it was not there in clause 6 as such
No,
earlier.
no, it was not. So it's definitely a very good change. And even in the annexer control, there was change control this, but then it was only in that operational security annexer control. But it's very good. Spot on. This is so important and to have this planning of changes included. Anything?
In general, I think in my opinion of this new standard is it has just made things more specific.
That's right.
That is a key thing I see in the new standard. Yeah.
Absolutely, and that's what I have tried to bring it in this presentation and present to you, that whatever changes are there, it should be crystal clear to everyone that these are the changes which has been made, and accordingly, whatever is required to be tweaked within the organization, if it is required, then it can be done. Otherwise, also means everyone should know that what are the highlights or what are the main changes in the high level structure.
Right.
Because
so, Shushant, I think basically whoever is having a 2013 certified under that, I think they can still hang on to that for another 3 years or.
Okay, we'll come to that, the transition process and all, definitely. And there is a IF guideline for that. Yes, 3 years transition timeline is given for every standard whenever the new standard is published. So same applies for this also. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Sushant, one comment here. Just want a clarity here. The title was added the word privacy into it, but I could not see any specific change in the clauses section, at least for the privacy.
No, there is no clear cut this. That is only covered through the controls. There is no
The controls only.
no
Okay.
specific this for the privacy. Yeah, cyber security word is also not specifically mentioned in the clause. Yeah, that is all actually. That is covered through the different controls which are there.
Okay.
Yeah, as you know, means, but they highlighted it to make it more specific for this standard, that it is focusing on the cyber security and the PII also, because otherwise the organization used to go for 27,017 or 27,018 standard for the certification, just for the cloud security, or for 27,701 for privacy, separate these, but they have made it as an umbrella standard for that covers the cyber security, including the cloud security. That control is also added now, and the privacy. This has been added. So, of course, still, if organization want to go for specific standard this certification, as I know, means in fact, I did my lead auditor training for privacy, which is again very popular standard 27701, and I do conduct the audit for 27,017 also for some time. I completed my lead auditor training for 22301 also, because some companies go for this business continuity specifically. So yeah, it all depends on the requirement of the organization and the top management decision. Some global companies prefer to go for some specific this, but this standard is sort of a common this that covers now with the name. It has been made more specific that this covers cybersecurity and privacy. But there is no
27701 will still be continued.
Yeah, 701 will still be there. Yeah, because that is specifically for the privacy. Yeah, that as 27701 or 27017 or 2708, all the city of standard will continue. Yeah, only the standard which has been superseded is 27001 2013, which will eventually stop after 3 years deadline. Okay, so shall we proceed with the controls? So here, as you know, it's, in the previous edition of the standard, there were 14 control clauses or annexa controls with 35 control objective and 114 controls. And now it is simplified and it has been reduced to 4 control domains. From 14 to 4 control domains called as theme. And these are the 4 security control domains which are there, like organizational control, people control, physical and technological control. So under these 4 controls, all the 93 controls are now brought. So under organizational control, 37 controls are there, out of which 34 are existing and only 3 are new. People control, 8 controls are there, all existing. So there has not been any change in the people control. Physical control, there are 14 controls, out of which 13 existing and 1 is new. And technological control, 34 controls, 27 existing and 7 new controls have been are there in this. So basically now we don't have to go through all those A5 to A18. Everything is under 5, 6, 7, 8. That's it. Very, very easy standard, very easy to understand, very easy to audit and even implement. And I think for everyone, it has been made so as to have a better visibility and better understanding. So this is the structure.
So organization controls are primarily the process controls.
Yeah, process and people, process and that policies and all these things which are there. Yeah, in the organizational control, and those are the things which are included. Yeah, mainly from the process perspective. Yes. So organizational control. I will just like to highlight here 11 new controls are there. So reflect the changes in the security landscape since 2013. And in this, again, some of these changes which has happened is about threat intelligence, use of cloud service and data link protection and all this. There are 24 merged control and 58 renamed or reviewed control. So under that, again, 20 means there are a certain segregation, which we will discuss a bit later. The 27002 standard has been actually again has gone through certain change in the February 22 version, and it has the layout like this. Control title is there, then the attribute table is there, control is mentioned, the purpose, guidance, and other information. So like that, this has been structured. So there are 4 themes, 93 controls, and 5 attributes. Now 5 attributes which are there, those are not mandatory. These are the attribute categories. So control type is preventive, detective, corrective. InfoSec property is confidentiality, integrity, availability. And cybersecurity concept is identify, protect, detect, respond, recover in line with the NIST guideline. And then operational capabilities are there, all this which come under the operational capabilities, and then the security domain, that is governance and protection, defense, resilience. So all these 5 selectable and searchable attributes have been detailed in the 27002 version. So as you know, control type, 3 types, security properties based on CIA, and then cyber security concept based on all these different steps of identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover, and then operational capabilities and the security domain. So these are the again, these 5 attributes are not mandatory. So absence of attribute is not a non-conformance, definitely, and it can be used to improve the maturity of the organization. How it can be done, that is again left to the organization, but it can be captured through means I have seen in some of the organization where I have started conducting this audit against the new standard, and that they have started updating their high-level structure, high-level documentation in the framework or manual or wherever, and they mention about these attributes under each control, and they have updated their document in line with this. And again, in the SOA also, they have made the reference of it. So like that, it is left to the organization to what extent they want to use this 5 attribute. But again, as it is a guideline, it is not a mandatory thing. It can be used to improve the maturity of the information security management system. One example of attribute like 5.1. Now, for every control, this has been mentioned in the standard 20 that 5.1 control type will be preventive, information security, all the 3 cyber security concept, operational capability, whatever category is there, and the security domain that can that is given very clearly in the 27002 standard. So 11 new controls which are there. If you see under 5, as I mentioned, there are 3 new controls. Is the number 1, then information security for use of cloud service is number 2, and ICT readiness for business continuity is the 3rd one. So under control 5, which is the organizational control, in this 3 new controls have been added. In 6 people control, there is no new control, all are existing. In 7, physical security monitoring has been added as a new control, and all the other 7 controls which are new are there in the technological control. So configuration management, information deletion, data masking, data leak prevention, monitoring activities, web filtering, and secure coding. So all these are in the technological control. And as you know, the standard was changed subsequent to the COVID that impacted the entire world, and that changed the course of working across the world, and remote working and work from home became more prevalent, and hence all these technological control, mainly 7 new technological control has been added to deal with that situation, and some other just to just comply or mainly to align with the new way of working. So this control 5, which is there in this, as I mentioned, that there are 3 controls which are the new one, and the first one is threat intelligence. Okay, what is your experience with threat intelligence? You all have been auditing for quite some time. So have you, can you please tell currently, even if they have not gone for the new standard, how the organization deal with this threat intelligence? Anyone has got any experience?
They usually subscribe to external threat intelligence feeds. Usually also have tie-ups with special interest groups who provide that as a service. And also there are cohorts which actually, particularly within the state government or federal government, signal channels that run, which actually help disseminate intelligence quite rapidly. And also some subscriptions that as a government agencies, they are allowed to subscribe to SEC feeds coming or newsletters coming, which provide a range of topics based on the the industry verticals under critical infrastructure or even non-critical infrastructure, the small medium businesses which receive some level of particular intel that is very specific that can be acted upon by security operations team. So mostly this is what I've seen.
Yeah,
and
no,
when it comes to auditing, they generally have a lot to show in terms of their existing arrangements and their internal processes about what happens once they receive, then what happens internally to action on those intelligence inputs.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, definitely this was already prevalent in the industry, and ISO standard has taken this because it is something which was already been implemented in different organizations, and to deal with the situation of threat which prevalent threats which exist, and that's why all the tools and the processes were already in place. Now ISO in the ISO standard, this control has been made more specific so that the threat intelligence is focused during the auditing also. So anyone else has any experience with this?
Primarily,
Okay,
some
so
tools
yeah,
also
please.
tools also like CrowdStrike and the
Yeah.
people have implemented. So they showcase that too.
Yeah, definitely. So that is definitely there. The different tools which are there for threat intelligence to gather the information about the threat, existing threat. All definitely means that also is in use quite popularly across the industry. So basically, this control is about the information relating to information security threat should be collected, analyzed, to produce threat intelligence. And the purpose is to provide awareness of the organization's threat environment so that the appropriate mitigation action can be taken. And the guidance that is given in 27002 is threat intelligence can be divided into 3 layers, which should all be considered. So strategic threat intelligence through exchange of high-level information about changing threat. So at the strategic level, threat landscape and type of attacker or type of attacks. And the next is the tactical threat intelligence, information about attacker methodology, tools, and technology involved. And then the operational threat intelligence detail about the specific attack, including technical indicators. So all these 3 levels or 3-layered approach needs to be there for threat intelligence. In 27002, they have given this attribute, that control that describe the control type. So threat intelligence has all these different control types: preventive, detective, corrective, like information security properties, again based on CIA, and similarly the concept, capability, and security domain. Different tools which are used, like CrowdStrike is there, SolarWind is there, Kaspersky, and so many other, and even the AWS and Microsoft or Google has their own these tools which are used by different organizations for threat intelligence and all. So there are so many different ways through which the information about threat can be gathered. The basic thing is that these tools need to be data-driven, flexible, external focused, comprehensive, and extensive. So threat intelligence and cyber threat to help organization understand the risk of different types of attack and how best to defend them. Now, as an auditor, when it comes to audit the threat intelligence, again, so many questions can be asked based on your experience and based on the field in which you work. But in general, certain questionnaire can be as a generic question. Have they defined the set of roles and responsibility about this? What is the source of the intelligence, external or internal? Alignment with the organizational risk management. Has it been aligned with the organizational risk management? How is threat intelligence analyzed and used? Is the intelligence mutually shared? With whom? What is the mechanism of sharing the intelligence? Example of threat intel and its use, improvement in existing. So again, so many this, and again, this interview roles with responsibility, and discuss how the intelligence is utilized. Are the intelligence gathering objective clearly defined? Competency of key role. Then you can deep dive and what tool is used, what is the information that is gathered, what kind of information was obtained, and how you manage this threat intelligence, approaching through the three-layered approach as given as guidance in 27002 at the strategic, the tactical, and the operational level. So all these things can be there as part of the threat intelligence auditing. Now, 523 is about the information security for use of cloud service. And now cloud service has become so prevalent. How is your experience? Most of the companies are now moving to AWS, Microsoft Azure, and cloud-based this environment. What is your recent this when you go to the organization for auditing or consultancy? Anyone, please? Yeah,
I'll just get started. So although we see that there is a larger transformation already happening, most of the organizations have lifted and shifted literally all their data centers into cloud. But relevant cyber controls are not. The governance around how those cyber controls will be enforced, ensured, and also managed and maintained on an ongoing basis, it's not defined yet. So the maturity is lacking in that space, as we can see. Again, for some of the controls, which traditionally were internal responsibility or accountability of internal teams, with the new ways of working, has not been adjusted. For example, backup management used to be an internal responsibility. With cloud, that needs to be shifted to a supplier management, and ensuring backup arrangements are clearly defined from a SLA perspective under supplier management for cloud service providers dependency. So that these change in control applicability is not reflecting consistently as yet. That's what my initial observations have been. I'm not
that's
sure how
right.
others have seen. Yeah.
I agree to this one. I can give one more example here that there was one of the application which I was here reviewing, and it was on I don't recall it was Azure or AWS. I think it was AWS, and it was a general feeling that yes, all the logs are being maintained and whatever is being done, but however, the platform provider is just maintaining the logs for the platform. They are not maintaining the logs anything for for the applications. So there was a clear gap and of an understanding also. So people are still, they are moving it, but the consistently applying the controls on when they move into the cloud, that is somewhere it's lacking somewhere right now.
That's right. So sometimes you feel like the organization is dealing with the black box. They don't know what is happening, but they totally think that we have just engaged the cloud service provider and one of the best in the world, and everything will happen good without having the clear visibility of what is happening, right?
Yes, specifically for AWS or Microsoft, they trust blindly, and they don't organization think that we don't need to do anything. Basically, they're controlled by Microsoft or AWS.
That's right. And the funny part is that they even don't know about the terms and condition which is there, because they say that whatever terms and condition we have to sign, we don't have any say, right, in that. So they don't go through any kind of risk assessment as far as this is concerned. And some of them, I have seen that they go in the detail of all those different features of AWS and show AWS, this detective is there, AWS, this is CloudTrail, this is CloudWatch, and all the different reports which are there. They show the containers, S3, EC3, all these things in detail. They have a proper understanding, but very many are not even having a clue that how it operates.
Absolutely. One more example here I would like to quote here, like the security groups in AWS. Now, earlier the firewalls were being managed by the network teams. Of course, there are still firewalls being managed by network teams. But what is the tendency now coming up that okay, open up the wider spectrum of the ports in the firewall, and we'll manage the security groups. But security groups are being managed by the admins of the AWS, who may not be very fluid with the requirements of the network exactly what ports are to be open, how exactly is to be managed. So there is a specific need of a procedure to manage security groups also, which may be missing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely. And that's why the need of this control must have been thought by the committee, and they have made it very clear this the requirement of this cloud services. So information security for the use of cloud services have been made very clear. Now, in this, if you see, the control is process for acquisition, use, management, exit from cloud service should be established in accordance with organizational information security requirements. And the purpose is to specify and manage information security for the use of cloud service. The guidance which is given in the 27002 standard is organizations should establish and communicate topic-specific policy on the use of cloud service, which is in line with 27002 or 27017 standard for the cloud security. The organization should define and communicate how it intends to manage information security risk associated with the use of cloud service. It can be the extension of part of the existing approach of how the organization manage service provided by the external party. So with some specific emphasis on the cloud service, this risk it should be. So when we now, at least based on this as a best practice, we can always ask the organization that has this been included in your risk management process? Has any risk been assessed in relation to the cloud service? And so that they just don't pretend to just work through a black box without knowing anything about this. So basically, this is a good tool for us as auditor to deep dive and slightly understand what is the arrangement to work in the cloud environment. So again, and this is the attribute which is there, and it is preventive. All the three aspects of properties are there, and then similarly the cybersecurity concept, the capability, and the domain is mentioned in the 27020. This one. Okay, so this one is about, again, the information security risks that are associated with the cloud service. So again, as an auditor, we can check on the risk policy on how to manage the risk associated with cloud service. Has there been any policy developed specifically with reference to the cloud service, or it can be part of the existing information security policy, or it can be also part of that supplier management or external provider management process, or it can be as a separate document. So that choice is given. That define what you require from the cloud service provider, including their information security responsibility, as well as those of the organization when acting as cloud service customer. So again, as you know, means in 27017, if you go very clearly that interface and the responsibility of the cloud service provider and cloud service customer that has been described. So based on that, that responsibility, how it is shared, that can be defined clearly. Often these agreements are predefined, and so it is important that the organization is aware of what each party's responsibilities are. So that should be crystal clear, that interface of the roles and responsibility. Organizations should carry out risk assessment to identify risk connected with the use of cloud service. So this is something which can be seen. Then, as an auditor, we can always question that: is there any policy governing the use of cloud service? is it approved and communicated? Are the security requirements clearly defined? The responsibility of cloud provider and the client, has it been defined? Is there service agreement addressing the confidentiality, integrity, and availability? And do you have a sample risk assessment of cloud service provider or services? So like that, we can now go and ask based on this control. And this is I will say that this is a very good change that has been brought to because it's so relevant now. 530 is about the readiness for business continuity and ICT readiness with a focus on the ICT part of it. Means earlier business continuity was in all encompassing and the focus was not there for the ICT part of it. So now it has been made more specific. So ICT readiness should be planned, implemented, maintained, and tested based on the business continuity objective and ICT continuity requirement. That's the control. The purpose is to ensure the availability of the organizational information and other associated asset during disruption. And then the guidance is given in which the ICT readiness for business continuity is an important component in business continuity management and information security management to ensure that the organizational objective can be continued to be met during the disruption. ICT continuity requirement of the outcome of BIA. So BIA has the company gone for BIA or not? Have they defined their RTO or an RPO or not? All these things can be more specifically asked now under this. And same, if you see the attribute which is there for 27,002, and then the questions which are there as an auditor, we have to equip ourselves with some specific question. Has the business impact analysis been performed? Has the critical business activity been identified and prioritized? Then has the result been integrated into the service continuity and recovery plan? Then review the IT continuity plan. Is it approved? Then does the continuity plan address continuity recovery and resumption issue? Are the recovery time objective and recovery point objective aligned with the needs and priority of the business? And review result of exercise and testing the plan. So all these questions can be now asked as auditor. So we have to equip ourselves to go for this. And even as a consultant, we have to be ready to help the organization that all these issues are addressed. So we have to help them in developing their BIA, setting their all the plans with reference to ICT. 6 and 7. So 6, as I mentioned, there has not been any change. And this 7, there again, 40 out of 14 control, 13 existing control are there, and 1 new control, and 7 just 1 new control, that is physical security monitoring. So that's the new control. Physical security monitoring, again, if we go, we will have a break in 6 minutes, just at 3 o'clock for 15 minutes. So if anyone want a break right now, we can stop now and or else and join at 3:10, or else we can have the break at 3 and join at 3:15. What do you prefer?
3 o'clock. Let's have a break at 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. Okay, so we'll just cover this part. So physical security monitoring, and the control, again, premises should be continuously monitored for unauthorized physical access. So allows organization for monitoring from physical perspective. Use of security guard can be there, or CCTV or intruder alarm, anything can be there. The purpose is to detect and deter unauthorized physical access, and the guidance that is provided in the 27,002 standard is physical premise should be monitored by surveillance system, which can include guards, intruder alarm, video monitoring systems such as closed circuit television, and physical security information management software, either managed internally or by the monitoring service provider. And this, I think, more or less, all of you, even prior to this new control, did you cover it all? Like, just can you give some example or your experience with this control?
Mostly going through the CCTV administrative software to understand whether the logs are retained for a certain period of time, and is someone looking into those proactively, not just reactive alarm validation. So some of the proactive monitoring related questions we used to ask, like, is there does this form part of your start of the day or end of the day duties? Has the role been assigned for someone to look into these, how the alarms actions are taken, on what basis? Is it ad hoc, or are these documented scenarios? Um, so just a few, including for both controlled areas as well as public areas. For example, even for data center, if are there separate controls when it comes to physical security monitoring as such. But just at that level, and particularly around CCTV and repeated access control violations.
That's right.
Yeah.
Have you seen in any organization that the audit for CCTV or alarm, this time synchronization is done? And did you find anywhere that there was a time lag?
Yeah, absolutely. And also the log timestamps to be different as compared to the computer time, as compared to the whatever CCTV, the access control logs timestamps are. So I think these have been very common issues.
These are common
That's
issues,
right.
absolutely.
That's right. And in one company, I remember where there was one person, because he was from that background, used to install CCTV and all. He used to audit each and every CCTV and alarm for the time this, and that was a part of their audit schedule to audit the time stamping. That is very rare, right? Now I've seen there is a lag, and when they go and when we start auditing, they find, oh, there is a lag, and then they try to just fix it. But yeah, that is a common occurrence.
And the kind of controls that we check, I'll just add on to what Swapnil said. We also check on the access to the system from where we are managing the access for access controls. So
yes,
access to those systems is also to be checked out, whether who has got the access to those systems, which has a software to manage the access control system.
That's right. That's absolutely. That's so important.
Came across the good example here for the physical security monitoring. I mean, this clause is related to the human resources as well. After hours cleaning services, for example, and there is a requirement, all employees checks required, but secure cleaning service provider are not the employees. And I was auditing one of the business. They are conducting the exam for the aviation authorities. I mean, for the exam for pilots and all those. And their question bank, if question bank is still in the process, it's a paper-based system, and they had a clear desk policy. So what they used to do, they just put into the drawer, but drawer wasn't locked. And they had in the contract, in their SLA from the British Aviation Authority, that anyone involved into their project, they have to have Interpol vetting once every 5 years. And they missed out the cleaners from there. So there was a question raised by the British Aviation Authority on this. So physical security, normally businesses are missing the after-hour service provider, like cleaners or after-hour service provider for the server room, for example. Something gone wrong with the server room.
That's right.
That's where they're missing here for the security checks or police vetting or any kind of vetting.
No, so important. No, very relevant point you have raised. No, that's right. Sometimes everything is considered, but just one small this and that can be a big loophole in the system. So that's so important to consider. Then again, physical security monitoring, the control attributes that is given in the ISO 27002 is like this, describing in the tabular format this attributes. Again, the question from the physical security monitoring, sample alarm record and response, sample CCTV record is the control pad protected from tampering, sample testing record for alarm and monitoring system, and have they considered PII and data protection, workplace regulation, like what kind of regulations are in place just to make sure that all the visitors who are there or after our these whoever comes within the premises, how that is regulated. So all these things, and means most of the organization now have either they're set up in the building, in the commercial building, so there will be building management company, and then their own admin team is there, and probably they work in tandem and they issue the swipe card by taking a bunch of card from the building management and they issue that. I've seen in many cases the reconciliation is missed out. And this is a common occurrence. I don't know how you have experienced, but not many cases I've seen that reconciliation of this access card is not done periodically. Have you experienced that?
Also seen recently, like even if they're not doing reconciliation, they are deactivating the cards at the end of the every day if there's temporary cards being issued. But if employees leaving and whether their cards were returned or not, so that reconciliation is not happening when it comes to physical access cards perspective. So but because of the now low value of disposable visitor access passes, they don't do reconciliation every end of the day for temporary cards. They just say that, oh, we deactivated because half of the users will forget to return it or drop it back onto the counter, particularly when the security is unattended, the desk is unattended, or that sort of thing.
That's right. Have you come across this physical pen testing?
It was more as a social engineering attempt.
Yeah,
yes.
and like a penetration test physically means I'm just talking that this I have come across in a couple of organizations. So, and because Swapnil, you particularly work with government and all, I was just wondering that have you come across the company or organization hiring some third party to conduct the physical penetration test?
So I've seen red pen. So red team testing scenarios include physical intrusion attempts as one of the initial reconnaissance stages. So definitely, but I haven't seen that actually being
actually, I saw very interesting that someone just posed as some visitor, and this was for a government, the organization which was offering service to the government. This and a lot of public foot also used to happen in that organization. So they hired a third party to conduct the physical penetration test. Someone just posed as this visitor, entered there and somehow got entry in the inside this room and got the pictures of everything, and then showed later on to the employees who were responsible that this is what happened, and if you don't take care about tailgating and checking people who are coming within your premise. So a good attempt means it is very rare, but now companies are doing that also.
Yeah,
so
I've actually seen once with a client, and they were really focused on collecting rubbish documents and stuff from the rubbish bin. So I've seen once with a customer on physical pen testing.
okay, good. Yeah, right. Okay, so what we'll do, we will stop here for maybe 10 minutes if it is okay. At 3:15 we can come back if okay for all. I think we all are in the same time zone. Otherwise, I'm just mentioning about the AEDT, that is Melbourne time. 3:15 we'll be back.
Can we make it for 15 minutes?
Okay, 3:20, sure.
Thank you so much.
10 minutes go very fast. Yeah, I know. So let us make it 3:20. Yeah, sure. See you at 3:20. Okay, hello everyone. Have you come back? Okay, welcome.
Yep.
Welcome. Good. So if you can just confirm that everyone is back, then we can start.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. Welcome. Correct. Yeah. Okay, Corey, I didn't notice that you are there. Okay, welcome. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, thank you. I was outside, so I had to join a bit late.
I saw that. Okay. Yeah. Good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. And I think someone has joined later. You can see Ajay. Are you there?
Yeah, I am here.
Okay, if you can just open the camera, if you don't mind, for some time, and introduce yourself, that will be great.
Sure.
We had an introductory session. Initially, you were not there at the time. Okay, I think you were already there, right?
Yeah.
Did you?
Sorry?
I missed you probably. You introduced yourself, right?
No.
Did you get
No.
chance to introduce yourself? No, please introduce yourself, please.
Okay. Yes, basically I'm doing the ISO 27000 audit for various certification body, and in fact I have done one audit with Corey for the another certification body. So yeah, and currently I'm doing my master's in cyber security. So, and along with this, I'm doing the medical device quality management system, quality environment safety, and CSR auditing for the various certification body.
Oh, good, great.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Thanks. Okay, so we'll continue. We'll continue with the Annex Control 8, and in this, you know, the maximum number of new controls that has been added in this, starting from configuration management to information deletion, data masking, data leak prevention, and monitoring activities, web filtering, and secure coding. So these are the 7 controls which are new control in this clause number Annex Control 8. Configuration management. Now, again, shall we start with a sort of discussion, this discussion about this, if you can share some of your experience for auditing or from the implementation perspective about the configuration management. Anyone wants to share any experience? Neeraj, you'd like to say something?
I'm sorry, I joined just now.
Okay, we are going through the configuration
Yeah.
management. So yeah,
Yeah.
if you have any experience of while doing consultancy or auditing, how you go through this configuration management part, if you have any experience with this, if you can share that, that will be great.
Change management feeding into configuration management for CMDB. So that is what I look for, the linkage there. The planning of the change management, and further whatever the changes are being happening, we are feeding into the CMDBs, and the configuration management process has been called there. That is what we look forward to.
Right. Okay. Anyone else would like to just mention anything else apart from?
I think, Sushant, this has got to do something with the mobile device management as well. Before introduction of this control, we partially audit mobile device management and what kind of configurations they do on restricting the mobile devices. So
okay.
I guess it's somewhat related to that as well. But as it's a new control, there are some tools which enables configuration of systems.
That's right.
We will probably be checking, the use of those tools, and if the configuration is done appropriately by those tools, as well as segregation of duties as well. If the configuration is being done only one by one person, or if there is any segregation of duties.
Also, yeah, that's also an important part of the configuration management. Yeah, absolutely.
Capacity management, I mean, that's again, it's integrated with the configuration. Sometimes some businesses have peak and off-peak traffic. So then needs to require configured appropriate with the appropriate hardware or the networks.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Means change management, configuration, capacity, all are definitely interlinked, and even to some extent MDM, which is there. Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add? Swapnil?
More, basically more from how the organizational assets are maintained in the configuration management database, and how they are whenever there are IMAC happening for all the IMAC related change requests, how the organization ensures that the configuration management database is kept up to date, what software they are using for maintaining configurations, how frequently they update or conduct accuracy check around that. Then again, some of the controls which relates to um, maintaining the configurations for network devices. Are there different tools that are being used? I think MDM like iTunes, Intune, and relevant tools. I think Corey just highlighted onto that. But apart from that, it's usually, I mean, it goes as a bundle in, as you said, because under ITIL as well, there is a change, config, capacity, demand. They all are interlinked. So usually it's all like series of questions which we can take an auditee with, like explain me end to end, like how making this request results into cascading list of activities across these different domains. And then is there a clear roles defined about who is responsible or accountable for keeping the configurations up to date for all the asset inventory? So these are certain elements usually I look for.
Sure. No, definitely.
And in fact, the backup of the configuration, it has to be updated. The backups, that means whatever configurations are being updated, it's being updated in a database, and whatever the physical copy they are keeping as a backup for the configurations, even are there some kind of archives being maintained, and if they are being updated for that matter, and it starts with standard operating environment is what exactly are you making changes to SOEs as and when the technology changes. So when the requirement come in, and as and when the risks are identified, are you making changes to SOEs? So these are where we look at the pointers there.
Sure. So just from this standard perspective and some of these which I have gathered, I'll just explain through this different slides. So processes and tools to enforce defined configuration of hardware, software, services, and network, and use of standard templates and database to manage configuration, and configuration monitoring utilizing the system management tool, as well as integration with the asset management. So that is these are the things which are included in this configuration management. So control is about the configuration, including security configuration of hardware, software, services, network should be established, documented, implemented, monitored, and reviewed. So highlights the managing security requirement of hardware, software, and networks. The purpose is to ensure hardware, software, services, network functions correctly with required security setting, and configuration is not altered by unauthorized or incorrect changes. So again, it is linked with the change management and proper authorization. The guidance which is given in 27002, is that the organization should define and implement process and tools to enforce the defined configuration, including security configuration for hardware, software services, such as cloud services and network, for newly installed system, as well as for operational system over their lifetime. Roles and responsibility, as you already mentioned, and procedures should be in place to ensure satisfactory control of the configuration changes. So all these have to be in a formal manner. Again, the control attributes, preventive, and all the three aspects of information security property is there within this. Cybersecurity concept is protect, operational capability is secure configuration, and the security domain is again for protection. So again, use of CMDB, as you already mentioned about that, you all are having a experience in just going through this CMDB and configuration management. So documented configuration standard, including disabling unnecessary services and restricting access to powerful programs, how that is managed. Then review the cycle of this standard, use of tool to enforce standard, use of system management tool for monitoring, and sample some configuration records. So that is part of the configuration management. Next is information deletion. Again, the unauthorized access to or retention of sensitive information can have serious consequences. As you know, means this is the main reason for data breach in so many different organizations and so many cases which are happening recently. Ensuring effective deletion of such information is vital, and consider the use of different deletion method and ensure that the deletion is carried out effectively and that it is recorded for evidence. When deleting information, also consider information that is held by third parties, such as cloud service provider. This is again a very important part of the information deletion process. So using approved secure deletion software to permanently delete information to help ensure information cannot be recovered by using specialist recovery or forensic tool. I've seen some organization organizing the training session for their employees that if you just delete the information or any record from your digital it's not the final permanent deletion that happens. So using the recovery tool, the specialist training provider just showed how it can be recovered, and this kind of training is given, and it's so important for now staff to be made aware about these all things, so that this is taken care of. So using approved certified provider for secure disposal service, using disposal mechanism appropriate for the type of storage media being disposed, different methods, as you know, of sanitization and wiping and degaussing is in place. So organization can use any of these technique, or they can use the third-party service for that. I'm sure you have seen some organization using some third-party provider for their media disposal and all, and they get the certificate of disposal. I'm sure you have come across that. And yeah, some of these software like Blanco and this, you must have seen how it is used for the erasing purpose. And yeah, other open source tools are also available for data wiping. So using the different tools, this can be done. So again, the control is that information stored in the information system devices or any other storage should be deleted when no longer required. Several privacy-related control linked to information, as privacy has taken more prominent position in managing information. So this has become all the more important with the PII coming to picture. And to prevent unnecessary exposure of sensitive information and to conform with legal, statutory, regulatory, and contractual requirement for information deletion. So all this need to be considered while planning and controlling this particular aspect. So again, in 27002, this attribute is tabulated. And then the question like sanitization process for media and its alignment with business and legal requirement, whether it is defined. Third-party agreement include deletion requirements. So have you engaged any third party? Have you met any agreement with third party for the information deletion, for the secure deletion? Are cloud service provider deletion method satisfactory? Sample secure disposal destruction record. Does the organization use any automatic process for deletion of data after the specified period? Are hard disk removed before equipment removed from the premises? So all these things can be asked from the auditing perspective, or even from the implementation point of view. Next is data masking. So again, for this data masking, it should be used in relation to organization rule of access control and taking into consideration applicable legislation. Based on the exposure of sensitive data, including PII, different techniques such as pseudonymization and anonymization can be used. And now after GDPR, these all have become very, very important, and everywhere this data masking is being talked about, especially with reference to the sensitive data and all. Other techniques such as encryption, nulling, deletion, deleting characters, varying number and date, substitution, operating need to know, and minimizing access to data can also be considered. So all these different techniques can be considered for this data masking. The control is that data masking should be used in accordance with the organization topic-specific policy on access control and other related topic-specific and business requirement, taking applicable legislation into consideration. The purpose: to limit the exposure of sensitive data, including PII, and to comply with all the requirements. And the guidance which is given is that in 27002 is where the protection of sensitive data, PII, is a concern, the organization should consider hiding such data by using techniques such as data masking, pseudonymization, or anonymization. So all these there, and again, the attribute table is like this. And you can have the question: has sensitive data requiring masking been identified? What method is used? What are different methods which have been used? What legal, regulatory, contractual requirement exists? How is the data masking validated and tested? And is there a clearly defined process to ensure need to know only? So all these things can be considered. Then data leak prevention, which is there. So for data leak prevention, data leakage prevention measure should be applied to system, network, or any other device that process, store, or transmit sensitive information. So this again is for DLP, to detect and prevent the unauthorized disclosure and extraction of information by individual or system. And the guidance that is given in 27002 is that should consider the following to reduce the risk of data leakage: identifying, classifying the information to protect against leakage, personal information, pricing model or product design, any intellectual property information, monitoring channel of data leakage like email, file transfer, mobile device, portable storage devices, and acting to prevent information from leaking through different means. So this is for data leak prevention, and a tool should be used to identify and monitor sensitive information at risk of unauthorized user, detect the disclosure of sensitive information, or block user action or network transmission that expose sensitive information. So data leak prevention should also be considered to protect against the intelligence action or of an adversary from obtaining confidential or secret information, whether it is geopolitical, human, financial, commercial, scientific, or any other, which can be of interest for espionage or can be critical for the community. So all this need to be considered. Then the organization should identify and classify information to protect against data leak, such as PII. So it is based on the classification scheme, and then which channel may be susceptible to data leakage, and how might you prevent the information from leaking. So all these things need to be considered. Again, the attribute table is there, and the questionnaire can be again based on these sample questions like has sensitive information been identified and classified? A check for any tool used to minimize the data leakage, email attachment, control, DLP solution, whatever is there in place. Are there any formal process for data export? Who approves data export? Check acceptable use rule to cover up data leakage source. Check user awareness training material and record. Examine backup strategy. Check for encryption or backup of sensitive data. So all these things can be considered while reviewing this. Next is the monitoring activity. So continuous monitoring via monitoring tools can be done. Monitoring should be done in real time or in periodic intervals subject to organizational need and capability. And monitoring tools should include ability to handle large amount of data, adapt to constantly changing threat landscape, and allow for real-time notification. So tools should also be able to recognize specific signature and data for network or application behavior pattern. So all this need to be considered. Again, if you see, the control is that the network system application should be monitored for anomalous behavior and appropriate action taken to evaluate potential information security incident. And the purpose is to detect anomalous behavior. And then the guidance is there that all this need to be considered like outbound and inbound network traffic, all this system and application traffic. Then access to system server, networking equipment, monitoring system, critical application, critical to admin level system, then logs from security tools, all these different IDS and IPS and antivirus or firewall or any DLP that is used, event log relating to system and this. So all these need to be considered. So again, the sample question is confirming monitoring tool, ensure tools meet defined strategy and requirement, is any baseline of activity established, or check for automated alerting or event to whom and are false positive identified and action taken to reduce frequency of this, how they readjust all these things. So by changing the setting or rules, are personnel appropriately trained to respond to alerts, records of competency. So all these things can be considered. Anyone wants to share anything about the monitoring tools which you normally see in the organization?
I've been seeing mostly Microsoft footprint around when it comes to end-to-end monitoring, and also well-known tools such as Splunk, Sentinel,
Yeah.
OSCOUT. And when it comes to operational technology environment, then the likes of Clarity, Nozomi networks. So these become security related monitoring tools. When it comes to networking, then there are different range of other tools. But mostly whenever we ask questions around security monitoring, some of the organization, they tend to respond keeping in view of fault monitoring and IT uptime monitoring as a default if there's not enough maturity from a security perspective. So
that's right.
I've seen frequently teams answering more about having Splunk, but then using Splunk for application monitoring or infrastructure monitoring rather than security monitoring. So we have to ask very specific questions around those elements.
Have you seen instead of Splunk, Kina dashboard also being used by companies frequently? Kina?
I have not actually.
Okay.
Maybe if
as
anyone else has.
visualization tool, I mean, just like Splunk, Kina dashboard are also now. Has
Popular,
anyone
is it?
seen? Yeah, it is being used. Yeah, I've seen as visualization tool. It does the same job, I think, same as that. But yeah, some companies use Kina dashboard also.
How do you spell that?
It's Kenna. Kina.
Kenna. Okay.
Kenna. Yeah. Okay, so right. So this is for monitoring. Then web filtering. So again, should identify type of website to which the person should or should not access, and all these controls. Consider blocking the access to them, should reduce the risk of its personal accessing a website that contains illegal information. So all these, means these are, I'm sure it is already in place, but this control has been made now in this standard, so that as auditor or as consultant, we will see that whether this control is in place or not. So control is the access to external websites should be managed to reduce exposure to malicious content, and the purpose is to protect system from being compromised by malware and prevent access to unauthorized web resource. The guidance that is given again is that organizations should identify the type of website to which the person should or should not have access, and should consider blocking access through, whitelisting, blacklisting, all these things which are already there in place in most of the organization. Website that have information upload function unless permitted for various business reason, and no or suspected malicious website. Especially having the phishing content and command control servers, malicious website acquired from threat intelligence, website sharing illegal content. So all these, again, the attribution, these attributes are there, control attributes, and the sample question, use of proxy filter, whether they use the proxy filter or firewall or other screening technology designed to restrict web traffic. So that can be there. Then examine mechanism used to drive whitelisting or blacklisting of site and frequency of updates. Check acceptable use rule to ensure user are clear on behavior. Check user awareness training material and record. Check exemption process used to gain access to restricted site. So all this can be checked. And then the last one in this in the list of new control is secure coding. So secure coding is that the organization should monitor real-world threat and up-to-date advice and information on the software vulnerability to guide organizations' secure coding principles through continual improvement and learning. Again, here, do you have some experience of what you, because this has been already there in place in 2013 version also. So when you audit this part, normally, what is your experience? Will you like to share some of the experience? Yeah, Swapnil, yeah, you go.
Again, sometimes organizations have a different code repositories. So starting with how the security of code is maintained, but more importantly, going into do all developers follow a checklist about what are the basic do's and don'ts while doing any kind of a code development. So does the organization, first of all, have a secure coding policy? Second, do they have a checklist, or is there any guidance available which relates to, say, OWASP top 10 as a minimum mandatory requirements to be followed? Third thing is, how frequently do their developers undergo security related awareness or training as such about secure coding? Then more from a real-time feedback perspective, are there any tools implemented which give a prompt feedback if someone is coding which is inherently vulnerable by default or creating more vulnerabilities with the nature of coding that they are doing? So are there any, there are many automation tools that are available, DevSecOps tools in the CI/CD pipeline. So some of these questions I ask and then encourage some answers, and then again follow what is the frequency on which any app before going into pre-prod or production, what kind of testing do they do, how do they maintain those records, how the defects are fed back, who maintains the level 2 assurance over whether those have been fixed or not before allowing release into production. So the usual life cycle and how they've embedded cyber into that.
That's right.
That's what I asked.
That's right.
Covered all, and just one thing, that secure code reviews is something that some of the organizations, they do it as a part of their technical security assessment testings. That is when we do the pen test, they also perform the secure code review. So we sometimes go through those reports also. But yes, rightly said by Swapnil, is answer covered or covers almost all the things here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Sometimes-
And have you seen more frequent use of MS DevOps in the this software development, or do you see Git strategy being used for the this mainly, or do you have some other experience also how this whole software development is practiced?
This is secure coding. I mean, it's well managed if they are doing the in-house software development, but sometimes you will find the gaps when it's outsourced, this process. So secure coding, and you don't know whether it's deliberately they have left some vulnerabilities into the coding or not. So that's sometimes organization don't have a robust control when it comes to the outsourcing of the code.
That's right. That's right.
I also just to add to that what Ajay mentioned, like also their approach changes. If they're following waterfall, then there are distinct security checkpoints that we can see in their documentation.
Yeah.
But with Agile, it's like security. What about security if they are not following a DevSecOps lifecycle, or if they don't have a proper tool? So we saw organizations which are following purely agile methodology. They tend to miss out having a security role or a security SME being part of their stand-ups or overall
That is correct.
feedback cycle.
And
Because
I think
every
most of
sprint
the
is different.
organization go for agile Scrum methodology only now, right? Hardly anyone follow waterfall.
I mean, see if they're engaging, even if it's outsourcing to the organization, that's the different thing. But I was auditing one organization, and they had a software developer they found from the site called Upwork. And so a developer was in Russia, he was an individual. So in that case, they never had this kind of control for coding, and it wasn't an organization.
That's right. So yeah, all these need to be considered while this. So the control is that secure coding principles should be applied to software development, and the purpose is to ensure the software is written securely, thereby reducing the number of potential information security vulnerability in the software. And the guidance again is that the organization should establish organization-wide process to provide good governance for secure coding. Minimum secure baseline should be established and applied. Additionally, such processes and governance should be extended to cover software component from third parties and open source software, which we discussed just now. And the organization should monitor real-world threat and up-to-date advice and information on software vulnerability to guide the organization's secure coding principle through continual improvement and learning. And this need to be a constant process of going through at least top 10 or worst top 10 vulnerability, as Swapnil mentioned. So yeah, this is a continual improvement process which has to be implemented through constant awareness and training. Again, this is the structure of the control attribute, and the question can be secure software development standard or rules. Ensure the rules apply during planning, designing, coding, and reviewing and maintenance cycle, the entire life cycle of the software development. Ensure these rules apply to both in-house and external development. Mechanism for ensuring standard are aligned with changing threat landscape, input for threat intelligence. Application of these rules are both new development and maintenance activities. So all these bug fixes or any new development or whatever is there, everywhere it has to be applied. Training provided to software engineer on secure coding principle. That is, again, we talked about that. Is source code appropriately protected? That's also very important. The protection of the code, so code repository and all those things. How that access to the code repository is managed. So that is all about the new controls, which is there, which is the main focus of this training also. And then, you know, there are certain controls which have been merged. So in this, we will talk about the merge control, like means these two controls which are there merged into one, and similarly from the controls from different control domains like 615 and 1411 has been merged and become 5.8. Similarly, something from some of this control from asset management has been merged and has been made as one. Then communication security, access control, supplier management, business continuity, compliance, and this. If you see, so these are the new control identifier for the merge control. So a 5.1 is for the policy of for information security. 5.8 is about the information security and project management, and so on and so forth. All these different merge controls are there. So, and similarly for this 16, like incident management control, which was there. Now it is information security, event reporting, and some physical control, which were there, like physical entry. 7.10 is media, which was distributed across 4 different in asset management and as well as the physical control. And similarly, some of these like 12 and 14, these couple of different controls of the earlier standard has been merged, and now 8.32 is for change management. So like that, if you see, they have merged 23 different controls designed to simplify the operation of control framework. So these are designed to simplify the operation control that had related or similar overall objective. So basically, all those different controls had the similar objective. And many times when auditing, as per the old standard, we used to feel that things are repeated. Same type of evidence is shown again and again, right? So now, at least with this new structure, new merge control, and that can be avoided. So one control will have all the different this included in that. So okay, so thanks to this redesign, which is going to help us. Then all this again, 5.1, as you know, there is nothing new in this as such. Same policy for information security. Now the question, does the policy suite contain policy identifiers applicable in the statement of applicability, when were the policy approved and by whom? So something more specific, are this policy communicated to necessary, and these I'm sure as part of the previous audit process also you always used to ask this question, or you had taken care of while implementing the system. Are they included in the induction and regular training activities? And check the minutes of meeting of management review. Have they identified any significant change in the information security environment? For example, new legislation, new security requirement from the customer. So all these things can be checked. Similarly, for project management, review the project management methodology, review security requirement that has been specified in the business requirement, check minutes of project steering meeting, check responsibility for information security allocated to relevant to the project, and review project risk assessment if it has been done, and review software acquisition process to check for security specification. So all this can be considered. Then inventory, again, asset management is not a new thing, but the inventory of information and other associated asset, including owners, should be developed and maintained. So this is again, check the information asset register, whatever way they maintain that, and there are tools for managing the asset. The asset in the scope listed, confirm asset have assigned owners. So that is something we have to confirm. Acceptable use of associated asset, again, the same thing. Acceptable use policy was already there in that. Has it been communicated? Review the procedure for handling the information asset. So all this, there is not much new this information transfer. Again, the same thing, examine any documented information transfer policy if it is there, then check policy around electronic messaging, check responsibility related to information transfer, including owner, approver, custodian, and check labeling system used for sensitive information being transferred, check for malware protection within electronic messaging system, and examine training material and record related to awareness and responsibility. Access control, again, there is a same this, just that we have to check the way we used to check that access control policy is there, sample user access request, then confirm approval of access, check if access policy also cover approval of physical access, so that can be also included, and check for appropriate segregation of sensitive access, like and the standard user access and the privileged access as we used to audit. The same approach can be there. Okay, so this is all good. And then the access review, as you know, means review of access rights and all that also is part of that. Authentication information, same way, the password management or any use of any secret authentication or MFA, which is there in place now. It has become very common, right? To use the multi-factor authentication. So how they use those authentication using whichever authenticator, whether MS, Google, or Okta, or any other authenticator. So all this again can be part of the review. So review the mechanism used to issue password or other, whether they have the password vault, usage of password vault is there or not, or what is the complexity of password. So that default domain policy, which is set up in the, if they use Active Directory or the password set up in AWS environment, well, these things you can always check. And again, I'm sure you have been doing this kind of deep dive even when this was not developed as a merge control, because this is part. This was part of the access control. This process even in the previous one. Similarly, access right. So separate, this is for access right and all as a review of access right and how the provisioning is there for the access right, all these things. Supplier service, similarly, supplier management. So that can be just part of that. Information security during disruption. So this again should plan how to maintain the information security at the appropriate level during disruption. So again, it is part of the DR plan, which is there. Examine business continuity plan to check for inclusion of information security, check BIA for security impact, check plans for inclusion of compensating control if key security control cannot be maintained during the disruption, and check the testing and review update of such plan, sample testing or exercise. So this I'm sure this was anyway part of our assessment process earlier also. Legal regulatory, there is not much change. Now, one thing is good that they have merged this and they have removed this separate regulation of cryptographic control. How many of you saw in any organization this did you see that always this was made as non-applicable, or how did you can you share some experience about the regulation of cryptographic control?
Yeah, most of the time it's not applicable. That's what in the SO.
Right, because I don't think here any of the organization identified specific regulation related to it, and they always used to keep it. I have seen many organizations used to keep it like applicable, not as a non-applicable. This did you experience the same?
I've experienced a few of the clients. They, as you mentioned, they assign it as applicable, but they are not really bounded by any kind of legislation. But I guess by mistake they included in the SOA. So
That's right.
I explained them that in their case that shouldn't be applicable, and let them know about the issue. So I guess they confuse this with the cryptography.
That's right. That's right. Because A10 was there to take care of the cryptographic control part. So this regulation of cryptographic control and the explanation of it, which was given in 27002, that those which are involved in the import and export of the encryption technology for hardware or software, in those organizations, can be applicable, but the regulation of a cryptographic control, I have not seen in any of the case which was identified. So good that they have clubbed it together and merged so that it become part of the overall this identification of the legal and regulatory requirement. Again, review the list of applicable legislation, review movement of cryptographic tools across border, and sample if and this particularly because particularly for the global organization, if any movement is there and if any this cryptographic tool which are used, and then they have to declare it that because of the legal requirements and all. So that is something very, very important. So if suppose some global organization is there and they use some cryptographic tool, how they ensure when it comes to movement across the border. So sample client and supplier contract for any security requirement, sample insurance contract for any information security requirement. So all these things can be there. 56 is about technical this one. So with policies, rules, standard for information security, compliance with organization, information security policy topics, specific policy rules and standards should be regularly reviewed. So this is something as part of this requirement. Again, all the different questionnaire which are there as sample questions, event reporting. So part of the incident management process. Again, same way, we have the sample questions related to weakness and incident or event that may occur within the organization. Physical entry. So there is nothing specifically new about this. This is same as the old standard, and all these questions can be considered as guidance. Storage media, similarly, because all these different controls have been merged. But again, this has to follow the same type of this, which used to be there in the previous version of the standard. User endpoint devices, again, not any specific change. And the question can be like a review of policy on the use of laptop, mobile devices, a review of policy setting related to password protection, screensaver, check endpoint patching process and sample, and confirm restriction on software installation, check user training material to and mobile device use, including physical protection guideline, and check control deployed on mobile device. So all this including the mobile device management, then technical vulnerability management. And I'm sure you have enough experience of going through the vulnerability scanning and the penetration test and all kind of vulnerability that is identified, whether that's critical, high, medium, low, and then the action plan to deal with those vulnerability. Normally, most of the companies engage third party to conduct the pen test, right? Most of the organization, and some of them are having some internal scanning also done periodically. So this is again review vulnerability management policy and procedure, review source of vulnerability information, sample record of risk, vulnerability assessment decision, and sample patching record, review use of vulnerability management tools such as Qualys, and just to report it as a visualization tool, as different tools which are used, and review security calendar for schedule of testing and sample penetration testing. So all these things can be done. Then logging, again, what kind of a logging mechanism is there in place, whether they use some log aggregator or of every systems and application separately. So log that record activities, exception, fault, and other event should be produced, stored, protected, and analyzed. And the purpose is to record event, generate evidence, ensure integrity of log information, event as identify information security event that can lead to an information security incident and to support investigation. So this is what is about logging. Sample question again. And installation. So these are same. There is nothing which has changed in this use of cryptography, application requirement, and security testing and acceptance, separation of development test and production environment, or separation of development test. Yeah, so related questionnaire which are there. Then change management remains same here. Next is the 58 updated controls. So in this, again, 23 controls which are renamed and 35 controls which has been renumbered without any change in the name. So out of 58. So renamed controls are these. So teleworking has become remote working. User registration and deregistration has become identity management. Management of privilege access right is now privilege access right. Secure logon procedure is secure authentication. Access control to program source code is access to source code. Termination or change of employment responsibility is responsibility after termination or change of employment. Physical security perimeter is just in the plural. They have just added and made it plural. Security of in equipment and asset of premises, security of asset of premises, and clear desk and clear screen policy. Instead of that, just clear desk and clear screen. That control is there. Control against malware is protection against malware. And similarly, this information security audit control is now protection of information system during audit testing. And network control is network security. Segregation in network is now segregation of network. So like that, and everything they have given a proper thought from the practical perspective, and that's why they have changed this. Secure development policies, secure development life cycle, and that's very, very important. The complete life cycle approach is there. Secure engineering, system engineering principle is secure system architecture and engineering principles, because architecture design is embedded in this. So architecture and engineering principle. Protection of test data is now test information, and information security policy for supplier relationship is now information security in supplier relationship. So again, same way, some changes which are there. Addressing security within supplier agreement is addressing information security within supplier agreement. Information and communication technology supply chain is now managing information security in ICT supply chain. Responsibility and procedure, instead of that, information security, incident management planning and preparation. And assessment of and decision of information security event is now assessment and decision of information security event. Availability of information processing facility is redundancy of information processing facility. And privacy and protection of PII is now privacy and protection. Means instead of personally identified information, PII is more common term which is used. So with this, basically we have covered all the different new controls, the merged control, the renamed control, and renumbered control. So all these are covered with this. And now when it comes to actual this, what are the key artifacts which can be changed, which we as auditor we go, or we as consultant will like the organization to just make a bit of tweak in certain cases and make some kind of formal change in certain other cases. So management review procedure, as you know, means slight tweaking can be needed in that. Change management process if they did not have any change management process, it can be formalized. Similarly, risk assessment as such, there is no change, but because in many cases when I have seen the risk management tool being used, or even in certain cases and the organization used to link when they use just a spreadsheet for managing risk, that risk was linked with some annexer controls. I don't know whether you have seen you have come across that situation, but many organizations do that. So in that case, if they link it with the annexer control, it can be just updated as per the new controls. So a statement of applicability, of course, will have to be changed. And similarly, as the risk register change and based on the incident, if any corrective action or improvement register is developed, and if that is also linked with the annexer control, this register or this information which are maintained in any tool system based tool that can be just updated as per this new this. And similarly, the calendar, the objectives or metric register can be changed. So basically, a bit of change in this risk register, the SOA, and the corrective action register, improvement register, internal this, and information security policy, the calendar, the measure metrics, the risk management, this. So whether all these things have been consider, like physical monitoring versus cloud only company. So that is important. If physical is not required, this need to be addressed through risk management process. Some companies say that, okay, we don't have any physical monitoring required, and all the physical and related control, we want to just make it as exclusive. But then proper risk it should be addressed through the risk management process, or proper justification should be given. AWS, Google, or MS Azure is still accountable. Check with the cloud service provider and review the contract, how it is done. So should not be blindly done. So transition timeline, as someone was putting this question in the beginning, the same timeline as it is given for any standard. So 31st October 2022 was the publication date of this standard, and this transition process has to be completed no later than 31st October 2025. So this is the guideline of IAF. And now every certification body, I'm sure you also work with different certification body. So every certification body has their own this policy on this. And based on that, it will be decided whether a minimum duration of half day for transition during surveillance or recertification. Some companies, some CB say that, okay, during recertification, if you go for it, there will be no additional day. In certain cases, special audit, if it is to be considered, then 1 day extra will be there. So again, based on the complexity of organization and scope and all, this needs to be finalized between the CB and the organization. So now I think we have gone through it as organization has to do same way. We have to get first familiarized with this standard, which I tried to the extent possible in the limited time which we had to just give a sort of guide about the change, which many of you must be already knowing and have already gone through some other training. But yes, this is something which needs to be done. Then gap analysis can be done. And I think sometime the organization can engage some third party also. So as auditor, sometimes CB also we can represent to do this gap analysis. So let's say it means how the organization progress and how they decide and go for this transition journey. Definitely as consultant or auditor, we are there to help them. And this understanding of this new standard will definitely help us to get ourselves ready for helping going ahead and helping the organization with this journey. So of course, I'm representing sustainable today, so I will request everyone to approach the friendly, sustainable staff and we all are there to help you. And in case if you are working on behalf of sustainable, definitely you will get more and more opportunity to be part of this transition process with the client. So and that's the thing I wanted to. And to summarize, like what we covered today is what are the different changes that has happened in the high level structure of this standard, and then minor clause adjustment, as you know, cosmetic changes that has occurred in this new standard. Most of the things are unchanged, but some changes in the sub clauses particularly, and addition of new clause of 6.3 regarding this plan change that has been added. Then Annexer A has undergone significant revision. So all the control identifiers have been changed. And under the 4 security this control domains. And then 11 new controls are there, which has been added, and renaming of some controls provide additional security for both ISMS operator and auditor. And the audit process is the same, just more attention is required on the control addition and merger. So basically, that's all I wanted to cover. Thanks a lot, everyone, for attending. If you have any question, please feel free to ask. I have an interesting session after this. It's not the end of the training. Still, we'll continue for some time. So if you have any question, please feel free. And then we can have, again, 10 or 15-minute break. And if you want to come back, if you're okay to come back, we will have the quiz session. That is the most interesting session of this training, so that you will refresh your this whatever you have learned, and a bit of exercise before we go for the weekend, before we go for a glass of beer. Okay, so would you like to have a break now for, say, 15 minutes? And will you like to come back? Or 9 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever is your preference?
Yes, I think let's just take that 15 minutes break and come back.
15 minutes. Okay, so let us come back at 4:35. Will that be okay? 4:35 Melbourne time? Okay, 14 minutes to be precise. Yeah, okay. Okay, then see you at 4:35.
Neeraj, are you contracting with Sustainable or you are the employee?
Currently, neither.
Hello.
Right.
Hello. Yeah. So everyone is back.
Yeah, I'm back.
So do you all work for Sustainable or sorry? Do you all work for Sustainable or still not started? Some of you not started yet.
I haven't started yet. I mean,
Okay.
I have signed the contract, but haven't started yet.
Okay.
Haven't started as of now. Yeah.
And what about Neeraj? You work for Sustainable?
No, I haven't started as of now.
Oh, okay.
Under discussions.
Okay. And Kore, you work for GCC. I worked with you for GCC, right? Okay.
Yeah, majority of the audits I do for GCC, but I have one client with the Sustainable as well.
Also, so you already started working with Sustainable, right? Yes. Okay, good. No, very good. And Gunnar Segaraj, you have not yet started, right?
I've been instrumental of getting my client to be certified with Sustainable.
Oh, good.
So
okay.
the ISO 27 is certified with Sustainable, and I have actually signed a contract. Plus, I've just become a consultant only in the last 3 years.
Good.
Consultant and auditor. So it is quite a search. You know, it takes time before you can get yourself lobbied with the other CBs. I quite actively work for 2 CBs. The one is in Western Australia and one is in Queensland.
I see. Okay. Good. Very good. And what about Joseph?
I'm with Sustainable from last year.
And you work full time with Sustainable?
No, I'm on contract as well.
Oh, okay. Also. Okay.
Yeah, I spend a lot of my time with defense.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good. So do you do IRAP audit also, or?
I do, yes.
Oh, good. Very few IRAP auditors are there, right?
Yep.
You are one of the few. Very good. Very good. And Abdullah, could you manage to unmute yourself?
No.
Renee, can you help Abdullah? Because or is there some issue at his end so that he can't mute?
So he is texting. I think.
He's texting. Yeah. He mentioned that he is not able to unmute.
Yeah, the microphone's enabled, so I'm not sure what's happening with it.
Right. Okay, that's something strange. Abdullah, can you try to leave the meeting and rejoin, and when Renee admit you, then we'll see whether you can unmute yourself. If you try once. Okay, so anyway, what we'll do, we will go through one interesting part of this audit, and that is quiz. Can all of you see the auditor transition training quiz on your screen?
Yep.
Okay,
Apologies,
so fastest.
I was a bit late.
Fastest finger first, and Renee is taking the monitoring the performance of everyone who is participating, and I'm sure Renee, you can recommend some good prize for the one who answered the most.
Yeah, I'll take the work card and I'll get a good prize.
Okay, so your first question now will appear on the screen. So be ready, all of you. Fastest finger first, and you can answer true or false. The statement of applicability is not required to be updated to include the merge control.
False.
False.
That's perfectly fine. So everyone is right. 2, true or false. Internal audit must cover the implementation of revised and exit control that are applicable.
False.
Who said false? False is not correct. True is correct. Yeah, right. Okay, true or false? Exclusion
False.
of control does not need to be justified. Oh.
False.
So Renee, I'm
False.
sure you are taking care
False.
of. So false, right? Exclusion of control does not need to be justified. False.
False.
That is very clear. Additional risk related to new control
False.
do not need to be false. Yes.
Yeah.
Statement of applicability shall include the attributes for each control.
True.
True, but it's optional. But true.
So that's
But
why
it
it
says
is
shall.
not true, actually.
Yeah. Oh, it
That
uses word shall.
Shall
So
means
it's
it's
Shall.
mandatory. So
yeah.
should is okay, but not shall.
Not shall.
Right?
Yeah.
So just a bit of tricky this
Oh,
here.
yeah.
So it is not shall. So false, right, is the correct answer. 6. Information security objectives shall be monitored.
True.
Now it is a mandatory requirement. 27,002 control implementation guide must be followed.
No.
False.
False.
So false, 100%
Guidance.
false.
Yeah.
Yeah. Source of threat intelligence should be considered during the audit.
True.
True.
True. Continuous monitoring for unauthorized physical access must be implemented.
Unauthorized physical.
Well, it's up to the
Depends.
organization. So
Depends.
false.
I think
Depends on
false.
the
False.
organization.
This, now monitoring of physical access now has become a control, right?
Control.
So
yeah.
continuous monitoring of unauthorized physical access must be implemented. That is now as a requirement, as a control, because earlier there was no specific control for monitoring of physical
Is
access.
it continuous? Continuous monitoring is a requirement, or the monitoring is a requirement?
Unauthorized. So continuous monitoring for
Unauthorized.
unauthorized is the requirement. Any unauthorized, if it
That
is
is
there.
fine. Monitoring of unauthorized physical access is correctly fine, but continuous monitoring, that means 24/7. It could be interpreted as 24/7.
And
Is it-
mainly because unauthorized physical, just continuous monitoring of physical access, if it is there, that's fine. But any unauthorized access, if any chance of unauthorized access is there, that should be continuously monitored. That is
Yep.
whole
Yeah.
idea
Right.
is that only.
Susan,
I
just to
think
ask
they
more
need
clarification on that.
Companies need to receive some alert if there is any unauthorized access, I guess.
Alarm or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
just this being a control, wouldn't it be at the organization's risk appetite decision basis, whether it
Of course.
applies or not?
Of course. If they take the decision based on this, that okay, means whatever control they want to have in place, that is left to them. But mainly is that control which has been added as a monitoring of physical access. And this question is a bit tricky about the just because unauthorized physical access must be implemented. That's why it is like continuous monitoring of unauthorized access is something as a true. Otherwise, this is fine.
Sorry,
And-
what about say some of the business? They have a registered office, but there is nothing as actually such as operational. Everything is based on cloud, and
100%.
everyone is working from home. So
And
where they
that-
gonna monitor the continuous access?
Then definitely that has to be addressed through the risk management process. And if they decide that, okay, there is no need of that can be. But the main thing is that if any unauthorized access, physical access is possible, for that, the continuous monitoring should be in place. That is the whole idea, means unauthorized physical access. Because if they have decided, okay, for that physical perimeter, there is no need of any physical continuous monitoring or any monitoring because everything is in the cloud environment, that is fine. But if any chance of unauthorized physical access is there, that should be continuously monitored. That is the whole idea. That's
I think there is one thing which might be considered is if, let's say, the company is working from a co-working space, and sometimes they don't have anything which is left when they are, so they can, I think they can assign this as not applicable. In that case, we don't need to check anyway. And if they're able to justify, but if it's applicable, I think they should be continuously monitoring unauthorized access. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And now this physical is of little significance now because most of the companies don't have the on-prem server. Nothing sensitive is there in their physical location, and everything is in the cloud-based. So if they do the proper risk assessment and they decide, and the informed decision is taken, and the risk is accepted, that's fine. Absolutely fine. But if any chance of unauthorized physical access is there, that needs to be continuously monitored. That's the whole idea in this question particularly. So 10 is information should be deleted when no longer required. True or false?
Yes.
True, 100%. And then proxy filter may be used to control access to external websites. It is true. One of the way is the proxy filter. There are so many ways of web filtering, but it may be used for control access to the
proxy
external.
filters
So
may
true.
be used.
Yeah.
Yeah, there could be other ways of
Others,
filtering.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I was thinking more from
Yeah.
filtering is optional, which is not.
Sure.
This may be
It
used.
may
Yeah.
be used as one of the options.
Yeah.
It can, there are so many. Okay, so it's a bit interesting just to
False.
keep
No, this is a
everyone
good
awake
question.
at the
Question
end of
probably
the
is
day.
false.
This is false.
Secure credit do not apply to
False.
also. Yeah,
False.
100%. 100%. Then new annexer A control cannot be excluded.
False.
False. False.
Yeah. They can be, or
Thinking true because
Just
they are
with
guidelines.
justification. With justification.
on the-
Can be.
With justification. So
It
true
can be excluded with justification, right?
cannot
That's
Can be
excluded.
excluded with justification.
That's
So
right.
false.
False.
That's
Yes,
false.
Yeah.
100%. How long do you have to transition your existing
3 years.
ISN?
3 years.
3 years. So this is 3 years timeline, not from today. It is just the timeline. It is
31st October 25.
not like today sitting here in February. This from now it's not, but just the cycle.
But from after 31st October, there won't be a recertification against this 2013.
In fact, most of the CVs, as I understand, has decided not to go for any recertification after 2023, approximately after say June or subsequent this, because there is no point, because they want to complete this transition process prior to the expiry date. So 23 will be the cutoff this for the transition, and any new certification will not be given for 2013 version from I think from now onward only most of the organization, but some organization are still going for 2013 version. But I'm sure after say means after June, July of 2013 also, most of the organization will opt for the new standard only. Yeah. And some CBs are yet not ready for this transition, so they are just prolonging this. So hopefully this whole process will be done by almost all the CB. It will be completed, and 24 onward, year 24 onward, definitely there. I consider that there won't be any new certification for the old standard. How long do you have to transition your existing? This is already done, so 3 years. Then next is an audit of threat intelligence may include examination of following. So in this, you have to select the different, there may be more than one, which is correct. Select all that apply. So source of intelligence, roles, responsibility, information security incident, how long intelligence, how the intelligence is analyzed and used.
Oh.
So only information security incident is not very specifically required for this. That is something more for another control. But source of intelligence, the roles and responsibility, and the analysis of intelligence, and this A, B, D are more this. So A, B, and D are.
But it can't be a threat if there is information security incident. It can't be a threat.
the all these but sometimes it may not be. It can in this question, this specific answer has been asked, so may include the examination of 1, 2, 3. So security incident is not specifically related to threat intelligence directly. Indirectly, definitely it is. But A is the correct answer in this case. Which of the following applies to that masking? Select all that applies. So data masking applies to any sensitive data, including PII. Data masking applies to sensitive PII data only.
Sorry, is it just my screen or it's not
No,
updated
it's
yet?
screen
I'm
is
still on
your
15.
screen is freeze.
Encrypted.
We haven't moved the screen, I guess.
Yeah.
He's like, I
Screen,
think,
the
So
screen
what
is
happened?
still reflecting question 15.
I think his internet connection
15.
is not stable.
Is it 15, not 16? You can't see 16?
No.
Okay,
Can't
now?
No.
No,
not yet.
I think share
No.
again. So Shant,
Maybe you
just,
can
Okay,
stop
I will
sharing.
stop sharing
stop
and
sharing
then
and share again.
Okay.
Yeah, it's come now.
Okay.
16.
It just came in.
Okay, I'll do that once again. Okay, just 1 second. So now has it come?
Yep.
No.
18.
No,
It's 18 now.
showing
18.
18.
Okay, so I will go back to this already. Okay, so this one, which of the following applies to data masking? Data masking applies to any sensitive data, including PII. Data
A
masking applies
correct,
to
B not
sensitive
correct.
A, I think only A.
B not correct. C. No. No, A.
A.
sensitive data, including PII, right?
Correct, but it says all applies. That means A, C, and D, I would say that, but
A, C, and D.
just if you find a contract, also that is in addition, contract also, encrypted also, but actually the ball game is around A.
Yeah, A, C, and D.
That's right. That's right. So basically, yeah, it's all. If you see the sensitive data, that's what is including PII. Any sensitive data, including PII, that's fine. Yeah, that's right.
So in fact, C and D are subset of A.
Absolutely, yeah. And any PHI also can be there
Correct,
in that health information or PII. But yeah, sensitive data, including PII, is the correct option. So A is fine. The statement of applicability must include justification for inclusion of control, whether the controls are implemented or not, technology used, and risk related to controls.
I think all three are good.
B and D.
B and D.
A, B, and D. A, B, and D.
A, B.
In many cases, in the
D.
statement of applicability, risk is also mentioned. But generally, in the statement of applicability, generally, the justification for inclusion and of control, that is one thing, or exclusion also, if that was the option, and whether the control are implemented or not. So whether applicable and implemented or not, what is the status of implementation? So that, so A and B is definitely there. The risk is optional, it's in the statement of applicability. So A and B is the exact correct this in this case.
A should be have exclusions also, inclusions and exclusions of controls.
Sure, but here in the question,
yeah,
that has been given as the option. But the inclusion and exclusion also both should be there, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Then what may be considered if adopting physical security monitoring? Okay, so alarm unoccupied areas constantly, awareness training to staff, use of physical barrier to prevent unauthorized access, consider motion sensing technology for detecting motion.
C and D, I think.
B, C, and D.
C and D. Yeah.
And these kind of question, you know, means there is no hard and fast answer
Yeah, C and D.
exactly. But you know, means these questions are framed in such a way that you make some mistake, and so that you don't get 100% mark.
C and D.
You know, and so many times you must have attempted the different question set by different certification body. So alarm unoccupied area constantly, that is something unoccupied area constantly. That is the whole idea that if any unoccupied area is there, that needs to be alarmed or monitored constantly, and that is one. And rest all, you know, means again use of physical barrier, consider motion sensor technology. These are optional type of this. So the correct answer when it comes to the exact answer for this question, in this case, when suppose it is the examination, the A will be, and theoretically A will be the correct one, but other things from the practical point of view, it can change. But in certain cases, you know, means like I don't know whether you have tried preparing for CISA or CISSP. Sometime as auditor, if you just try to answer, you will not pass the examination. So sometimes we have to come out of the auditor's mode and think from the question or quiz perspective, and the question that is asked based on what is the expected answer. So how do you demonstrate conformity to the new annexer controls? Ensure all are implemented. There is no need to do anything as they are not mandatory. Justify their exclusion and inclusion in SOA, your source of reference. Yeah.
C.
100%. C is the correct answer. Some questions are very clear that 100%. Which of the following may be requested when auditing the requirement of this 523 information security for use of cloud service? Select all that apply. So policy governing the use of cloud service, define responsibility of cloud provider, change management record for cloud services, and disciplinary procedure.
ABC.
100%. ABC is the correct answer. 100%. So what has changed in clause 10? Select all that. Change to continual improvement requirement, changes to how non-conformity are even. There has been change to how the other aligns with the numbering of harmonized approach, and nothing has changed.
1 has become 2, 2 has become 1.
So there has been change on how the order aligns with the numbering of harmonized approach. So
That's
how,
right.
as per the harmonized structure, it has the order has changed. So 10.2 has become 10.1 to align with the harmonized structure. Which of the following elements should be considered when auditing physical security to satisfy the requirement of clause 6.1? Select all that. Alarm, record, response, location of camera and motion sensor, staff record, access card, key management.
Records and response. I think it is A and D.
A.
So actually A, B, D, all these are correct here, that alarm, record and response, location of camera, and access card and key management. Staff record is more of the people control. So here, when you are considering the physical security monitoring and all, so alarm records and then camera, motion sensors, all these things, and access card or key management, all these you have to consider while checking this physical monitoring. Then when auditing secure coding, which of the following might evidence of effectiveness? You know, means some of these questions which are there, means I attempted this quiz, which was there in some other testing this, and means sometimes it becomes so difficult that you don't pass in one attempt. And then you realize that you have to select the exact correct this what is set by the examiner, and that's why it means I'm becoming a bit more specific about the answer. But yes, in the practical situation, there are so many different options. So when auditing secure coding, which of the following might be the evidence of effectiveness?
I think only A. Only A.
100%. 100%. So that is A is the correct. In the statement of applicability, which of the following control in annexer would be appropriate to record applicable legal or regulatory requirements?
D.
100% D is the correct answer. Then implementation of control A 6.1 screening require background verification check for only existing employee, only existing contractor, potential employee prior to employment.
C.
100%. Yeah. 100%. Which of the following is the new explicit requirement when considering IS objective?
Monitoring.
Monitor. Yeah. Yes, that's correct. Which of the following are Annexer A control for information asset management, return of asset access control, inventory of information and other associated assets?
C.
So A and C both are correct here because inventory and return both should be there within this information asset management. The auditor reviewing the statement of applicability should check for control selected for implementation at later date, control currently implemented, control not selected, and justification for the exclusion, the reasons for control selected.
All.
All. So E is the correct. All are correct. In your ISMS, what document is required to be updated prior to transition?
D.
Which one? Sorry.
Statement of applicability.
So a statement of applicability is the correct because rest all means it's not mandatory because it's part of the previous this no major change has happened, but the statement of applicability, yes, that has to be updated prior to transition. That is a must. Which of the following conditions are sufficient to justify exclusion from Annexer A of this one? Justified in ISMS documentation, residual risk accepted by management, only A above, both A and B, and only B above.
Both
Very
A
tricky, right?
A and B.
Both A.
100%. Wow, that's very good. Remy, are you taking a record of all this, and have you? Are you going to declare the result at the end of this session? Whom you will
I
send
might
the
have
best.
to rewatch the recording and calculate.
Okay, so decision will be taken by the management of sustainable later on. Okay. 32. How many new controls are there in the people's control section of Annexer A?
0.
100% correct. Yes. If a control in the statement of applicability is marked applicable but is not yet implemented, what would auditor expect to see? An alternative control to replace that control, reasons in the statement of applicability for not implementing the control, a risk treatment containing the control, reasons for exclusion of the control listed in the statement of applicability. Marked as applicable but not yet implemented.
C. I guess A. Alternative.
A, B, C. B and C.
A. I say A.
A. Core A. Neeraj?
Alternative controls, yeah, we sometimes look at that. What are the alternative controls? But that's more of a from the risk management perspective. We look at when we review the risk management, we say, okay, there are some certain controls which are not implemented. What are the alternative controls? So how are you evaluating the risks in that? So reasons of state of applicability not implementing the control. This is definitely we look for that.
Any other answer, Swapnil?
B and C.
Sorry?
B and C.
B and C, Ajay, yeah, and Swapnil. You are on mute, Swapnil. If you can unmute yourself. And Gunnar Shekhar Raj.
BNC.
BNC. Joseph Nair.
I think BNC.
BNC. Abdullah, you can text if you can't talk. And we will check your chat, your text in the chat. Abdullah, are you going to text the correct answer? Okay, BNC. Okay, and Swapnil, are you back? There is some issue with Swapnil's. Okay, so here actually, if it is applicable but not yet implemented, definitely the control has to be there, but that control has to be as part of the risk treatment process. So risk treatment containing the control, that is the option, because when suppose you have made it applicable, but you have not yet implemented it, then you have to do the risk assessment for that. You have to develop the risk treatment plan, and that has to have the control in it. So only C is the exact right answer for this particular question. And if you mark C, it will be 100% correct.
Oh, hi, I'm back.
Yeah. Welcome.
Sorry, I don't know for how long I was mute. I was answering. I hope it is recording.
I could see your yeah. Okay,
but
so
I'm keen to
what
know,
is your
so was
view
it B
about
or
this particular Swapnil? Yeah,
I was thinking more of B, but also C can be outlined as well, because risk
C
assessment
is the answer, because reasons
risk
of you justify in the SOA of applicability of a control, but you have not implemented that. You don't have a justify there. Risk treatment, your risk management will take care of your assessment of the risk of not implementation.
Yeah. So if exclusion or inclusion directly is there, then if you are excluding, you justify in the statement for excluding. But when it is not implemented, you have to have the risk treatment plan. Means you have not you have marked as applicable but not yet implemented. In that case, you have to do the risk treatment, and you have to have the control in place, the control plan in place, the complete risk treatment plan in place. So that there is some evidence that you are still having the risk treatment in place for that particular control, and you have planned some action plan for that, mitigating that risk. Yeah.
I think the risk treatment shouldn't have been started. Not it hasn't started yet, so the control is not implemented. If the risk have been completed, then it means also the control has been implemented, I guess.
But even if it is applicable and yet not implemented, in certain cases, some policy decision is to be taken, and that may require some capex, some top management decisions, and because of which you have to postpone certain implementation process. And in that case, if it is not implemented, you have to have the risk treatment plan in place and to mitigate that risk, and with a timeline. And that is what is something which is expected to be seen by the auditor. Because in most of the DESI audit, particularly, you have seen that a lot of situation comes like that, they don't make it they mark it applicable, but they don't implement. And out of 750 odd controls, maybe 30 controls will be there, which is applicable but not yet implemented. Yes, so that's right. Then next one is okay, 33. Auditor is reviewing the documented ISMS. In the statement of applicability, control 8.24 rules for effective use of cryptography has been marked not applicable. However, the backup procedure has a requirement that data backup must encrypt the information. The first step that the auditor should take is escalate the issue to CEO of the auditee organization, tell the auditee that SOA should be corrected immediately, tell the auditee that backup procedure should be corrected immediately, write a non-conformance report, inquire from the auditee if a policy on the use of cryptography exists. So what will be your approach?
E.
E.
I think it be E.
E.
Only E, I guess.
E and
The
no.
first step, right?
E. Because you have to find out what the policy talks before actually determine whether you want to escalate it any further.
100%, and Gunasekara, you get 100% marks for this. So that is the right approach, and I think all of you are experienced auditors. So definitely, all of you have the right approach to this. And the first step is to inquire from the auditee that whether policy exists, because we don't have to jump to the conclusion and write the non-conformance report directly. So first step, and not to inform or escalate to CEO, not to tell auditee that you have to avoid forever, as audit tell the auditee that SOA should be corrected immediately, tell the auditee that backup procedure should be correct. This kind of thing we cannot say as auditor, particularly in the third party audit. This needs to be completely avoided. So your approach should be to inquire from the auditee if a policy on the use of cryptography exists. Okay, so 34. Which of the following is true about A8 in Annex A? This holds the most control of the organization control, covers all non-organizational control. Almost all control must be implemented as they relate to technology. And this has largest number of new control of any 4 control section of the Annex A.
D.
Is it the largest?
I think it has the most new controls, I think.
Largest number of new control out of this. So this one. So this has the largest number of new control of any of the 4 controls. So that is the right answer, 100%. Okay, so this one. Then how many controls are there in Annex A of
A, 93.
100% correct?
93.
93. Yeah. Which of the following are the new controls introduced in 2022? Data masking, data leak prevention, logging, and this.
All.
So which are the new controls out of 11 new controls?
So A and B.
A and B.
A and B only, yes. So logging is not the new, information security during disruption is not the new. Only data masking and data leak prevention is the new one. 37. Which of the following could be considered a configuration item? Component of infrastructure, vending machine, data, and call center.
A.
100% correct. So component of the infrastructure is the part configuration item. Which when can a transition audit be carried out? So at recertification, during the planned surveillance, at special recertification and surveillance. So C is the correct one. When will you consider using organizational attribute to help manage the user control? While considering operational capability, while considering information security properties, while considering cyber security, when managing control based on their maturity.
A. A or D?
So here, actually, this has to be considered when you control when you start managing the control based on the maturity. So D is the correct one.
Evaluation is something which has come up, right? Evaluation of control which has come up. So I was thinking about evaluation maturity as linking these two.
Ah, right. Yeah. So the right one is the last D option. Okay, then the very last question of the day. which of the following is likely to be seen as evidence of effective control while auditing threat intelligence? Evidence of layered approach to threat evidence. A. So A is the fine. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. So that completes the whole this one. That's all. So once again, thanks everyone for attending this session. Any question? Anything you want to share before we close?
Some of the questions in the quiz were in red color, some were in black color. Why is that?
Good observation.
That is my specific color coding. That is
tricky question. More points for a question. Just
Actually,
being,
you know, means when you do the CISA preparation, you'll come to know that some of the questions are having more value.
Weightage. Yes,
Weightage.
Yes.
So based on the weightage, that color coding was there.
Fantastic.
But so thank you. Now really at the very end, I like to have some this. I have been talking a whole day, and I hope I could do some value addition, and you were benefited out of this this session which was conducted. But I like from your if you have anything to say at the end of the day and before going for the weekend. So can we have some feedback?
I think the course was very well presented. One of the things I liked is you actually threw in the prompt questions that the auditor can actually ask. So basically it is quite useful. So, you know, you're doing a transition audit and it's a new system. Probably now you, overall, when you look at it, you know, just between 2013 or 2022, it's just only terminology changes, but rather than that, most of it look common. But with the questions that you have prompted, actually do give us a lead to look for the actual fact finding. That's I think.
Thanks, Gunasegaraj. Am I pronouncing correctly your name, Gunasegaraj?
Yeah. My name was originally Gunasegaran. You know, Gunasegaraj through the numerology.
I see. Okay. Right. Okay. So
it was quite engaging, Sushant. That was we benefited a lot. We were able to, you know, identify the exact changes which were there and how to deal with those, which is excellent. I appreciate your efforts.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Neeraj, for your kind words.
Thank you very much, Sushant. I think it's a good reference for us for starting the audits with the new standard. And will you be sharing the presentation with the attendees? Or?
Yes, see, what I'll do, I will talk to Tushar also for this, because I have been presenting this on behalf of Sustainable. So yes. Tushar is not here, and he apologized for not being here at the end of this session today. He had some other commitment with some customer, but yes, it will be, and I will make the arrangement, probably if it is possible to share your email ID. What I have a training portal, which because we have this recognized training provider status, and as Tushar mentioned that this if you want even the exemplar global certificate can be issued for this transition with whatever this arrangement he will make with you, because this is on behalf of this sustainable certification. So definitely it will be some arrangement will be made for sharing. Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. I just want to add, Sushant, I mean, always it's a pleasure listening to you and your wealth of knowledge. Today's session particularly, it was succinct, and you were Of course, you were going through certain content, which you know our profiles as well. So you knew which part we will be getting bored. You are going forward swiftly, and you are deliberately spending more time on the content which is tricky, which requires more of an understanding, which is commendable. So thank you, and that kept us engaged. And all these questions at the end, this has been fantastic. Another great time spent with you and learning a lot about preparing ourselves for 2022. So thank you.
It was a pleasant surprise when I saw your name. I couldn't see your face first, but name when I saw, I was sure that it is the same Swapnil. So great.
Yes,
Thanks
yes.
for attending. Great. And Ajay Patel, I think we had just communicated through LinkedIn or somehow. Means, did we? Ajay, are you there? Are you listening?
Sorry.
We communicated
Yeah,
through
yeah,
LinkedIn
I
or
think,
some?
you
Yeah,
are my
somehow
LinkedIn
means
connection, yeah.
I can relate your name.
Yeah.
We never met or
Yeah.
meet face to face. Except for Corey and Swapnil, I have not met any one of you. But yes, now I can relate. If you can, want to say something, yeah, please feel free.
No, I mean, yeah, we are connected through the LinkedIn, so yeah.
And particularly for today's this, if you have any feedback, please feel free.
Yeah, it was a great session, and we have learned, I mean, all the new NX controls, and also it was a great session, and it was an interactive session, so that was a pleasure to attend this.
Because you are all from the same fraternity, I could make it more interactive, because the earlier session which we had, it was a sort of one-way this. So I was very happy to have you all in this session, and thanks for making it so lively and interactive. It was great. I enjoyed it more than probably you. So it was something very good. Thanks a lot, everyone. And we have Joseph also. Would you like to say, Joseph, anything?
No, all I can say is it was very informative, and I think the cheat sheet in this the new standard is the annex. If you can follow that, you can follow anything.
That's right. That's right. Oh, great. And Abdullah, did you manage to make yourself unmuted or still?
No, I think you're still sending some messages on the other.
Oh, okay, not a problem then. Okay, and we have Renee, who has been working very, very smartly for all this to happen. So thanks, Renee, for your effort and the background. Are you there? Then
I'm here. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
thanks. So with this, we will stop today's session, and thanks everyone for attending, and wish you a very happy weekend, and hope to meet you again.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you. Look
Thank
forward
you.
to.
Thanks a lot.
That's nice.
Bye all.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
You
Thanks.
too.
Thank you.
Bye.